So with the announcement of the new Rolex Submariners in 2020, the prices have gone crazy. I've even seen the new Kermit, Starbucks, whatever you want to call it, go for about $30,000. The regular black dial has been going for around $15,000 to $16,000, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but the 114060 has become an absolute bargain. Now I've had this watch for about 2 years now, so I was gonna make a video talking about my 2-year experience with this watch, which we will talk about. However, I wanted to talk about why I think the 114060 specifically is now a bargain if you're looking for a Rolex sub. Now eventually, as you're owning a Rolex sub, it's a very straightforward watch. It's a black dial, black bezel, stainless steel bracelet, and it's hard to have fun with it. However, I got contacted by Zealand and they offered to send me 2 rubber straps, a very cool red rubber strap that I've been wearing it on, and at first I didn't think I would like it. I thought it was going to be too loud, but as I wear black polo and jeans and having this rubber strap, it actually looks really good. And the rubber strap is really soft, so today's sponsor will actually be Zealand. But before we talk about today's sponsor and the full review, allow me to first introduce myself. My name is AB, I run the Watch Collector Productions, and in today's episode we're going to be talking about my ownership with the Rolex sub, why I think it's an absolute bargain now with all of the prices going crazy, specifically the 114060, and I invite you to subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of really cool videos coming soon. In fact, let me first do a wristwatch check to show you what kind of videos we have coming soon. I'm wearing the A. Lange & Söhne Zeitwerk, an absolutely phenomenal watch, a watch that has become my grail after unboxing it, and let's just say this video is going to be really good, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss this one. So it's no secret, if you've been subscribed to the channel, you'll see that there's a lot of dive watches I've recommended and I've said they're better than the Rolex sub. Yet I own the Rolex sub and not many other dive watches. So in today's episode, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys why I've owned the Rolex sub for this long and why I don't intend on selling it. For those of you who don't know, I'm a minimalist with my collection. I don't ever exceed 4 to 6 watches. So for me, I'm not a big dive watch guy, so I only have one dive watch in my collection, and that is the Rolex sub, specifically the 114060. Now there was a couple of things that went through my mind when I was choosing my Rolex sub. I wanted to go vintage. I was thinking about the 5513, the 1680, and I've handled both of them. But then I realized that although they're very charming and I absolutely love those watches, I wasn't a vintage watch guy. I didn't want something that was old and it didn't feel as luxurious as I wanted it to. The Rolex sub 114060 in pictures looks huge. With that 40.5mm case, every time I saw the pictures, I always thought it didn't look that good. But after handling it in the metal, and people who've handled the 114060, they'll tell you it's not as bad as it looks in pictures. So as I was choosing my main dive watch for my collection, I decided on the 114060. Here's the thing, I had a lot of dive watches on my list. A lot of them were better than the Rolex sub. But to be completely honest, the reason why I went with the Rolex was the fear of missing out. After everything started going crazy with Rolex, I knew I had one opportunity to get the Rolex sub before everything went crazy. And it did. So the main deciding factor, the one that made me pull the trigger on the Rolex sub, was I was speaking to a collector friend of mine who used to be a subscriber, but after a while we became really good friends. This collector, although I won't say his name, has everything you can imagine. Pateks, Langes, Independent, anything you can imagine, he has it. He isn't even a big Rolex fan. However, when I asked him, he told me this. He said, if you don't buy the Rolex sub, you might regret it in the future. And worst case scenario, if you don't enjoy it, you can always sell it. There's always somebody who's gonna buy that Rolex sub. Although a lot of people don't like the fact that that is true, it's just a fact. If you have a Rolex sub, if you need to sell it, it's as good as cash. Needless to say, over the past 2 years, I have made a video on why I decided to keep the Rolex sub. Although the main factor was still the fear of missing out, I started to bond with the watch. It is not the perfect dive watch whatsoever. I wish it had slimmer lugs, I don't care for the new 41mm, and there's just a lot of things I would change about it. But with 2 years of owning this watch, I realized I absolutely love it. One of the biggest reasons I love this watch is it's built like a tank. I'm not worried about wearing it whatsoever, and I know this might sound weird, but it doesn't feel like a Rolex on my wrist. It feels like a watch that's built like a tank, and it could take a beating. That's one thing I realized I absolutely loved about it. There's a lot of quote-unquote luxury pieces that I've owned that every time I wear it, I'm just a little bit worried about it. because when I look at it, it doesn't feel that solid, even though the finishing is remarkable, the watch is remarkable, but it didn't give me the comfort that the Rolex Sub does. I wear this watch everywhere and I don't worry about bashing it around whatsoever. The ceramic bezel makes this watch look new all the time. There's never once did I bash this watch and I realized a scratch on the ceramic bezel. Obviously, since it's ceramic, it won't scratch. The case itself and the bracelet has a lot of scratches on it, which does add a little bit of character. Even though I like keeping my watches new, every time I look at it, because of that ceramic bezel, the watch looks brand new. One thing I wanted to mention was how comfortable the bracelet was. The bracelet is extremely comfortable. The glide lock is one of the best systems I've ever had on a bracelet. There's a lot of systems that I've experienced, however the glide lock is still one of the best in my opinion. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the 3130 movement powering this piece. It's an absolute beast. This thing is still running within COSC certification and I haven't even serviced it yet. That's one thing I realized about the Rolex Sub. Even though Rolex don't make the best finished movements out there, it's an absolute monster. This thing is as accurate as the day I got it. Now, before we talk about the Rolex Sub 114060, why I highly recommend that model over any other Rolex Sub in the pre-owned market, let's first talk about today's sponsor, Zealand. Now, keep in mind, I only accept sponsors that I like to work with because of their products. Now, to put in a little bit of context, I never knew there was a difference between low quality rubber straps and high quality until I started experiencing OEM rubber straps from, let's say, Omega and their Seamaster line. After that, I started looking for high quality rubber straps, and I've seen a few and I've purchased a few, but none of them were as good as Zealand. So after experiencing Zealand and their FKM rubber straps, I realized there's a reason why these things cost over $100. The rubber strap is so soft and extremely high quality and is dust resistant, and it's one of the most comfortable rubber straps I've ever experienced. Now, assuming you're an Amazon Prime member, I have good news for you. Zealand is now available on Amazon, so if you want your rubber straps as fast as 2 days, you can go on Amazon and use your Prime shipping. That way you can get your rubber straps really fast and you can test it out if you like it. Overall, I highly recommend Zealand rubber straps, and my Rolex Sub has been living on that black rubber strap and it looks absolutely stunning. Now let's talk about numbers. Currently, if you're looking at the new Rolex Subs, the cheapest one you'll find is around $15,000 to $16,000. Assuming you're not able to get one from an authorized dealer, more than likely you're not. So one thing I'm gonna mention is if you look on the pre-owned market, the most affordable modern Rolex Sub you can find right now is the Rolex Sub 114060. That is the only model currently that didn't go crazy, and you could still pick it up anywhere from $9,500 to $10,000. I know that is still above retail, but the new reality is if you buy a Rolex Sub at retail, you're gonna make money. And that's just the reality. Now, if you're buying a Rolex Sub pre-owned, you're gonna have to pay above retail. The most affordable one you can find right now is the 114060. As I mentioned, $9,500 to $10,000 is what you're looking at. If you look at the one with the date, you're looking at 12 to 13. And if you're looking at the new models, you're looking at 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, and up. Once you start going into the Rolex Hulk, you're looking at 20 and up. And unfortunately, that's just the reality of the new Rolex prices. But you still have a chance. The 114060 still goes for around $9,500, which is why I recommend it. If you can somehow get the new models at retail, of course that is the way to go. But unfortunately, with the crazy waiting list, this is probably your best bet. Now, of course, you can always go vintage, but with vintage prices right now, the 114060 going for around $8,000, I would recommend actually getting the 114060. Assuming you don't care about that bulkier case, the 114060 is the better watch. Guys, what do you think about the older 114060? Do you like it? What do you like about it? Let us know in the comment section below, and as always, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.